Hello, welcome back. I hope you guys are all well. Today we're going to be discussing something very important, and that is tweens. Tweens are not really existing anymore. I mean, they are in the sense that when you're a tween age, you are technically a tween. But the tween culture and aesthetic, I'm afraid, is not alive. There's so many great videos you could watch about this. I would highly recommend doing so because I think it's fascinating, and I just wanted to discuss, the fashion, the aesthetics that we were all into for such a short amount of time, and how that's all gone away, and how it's also kind of affected some of our styles today, how we dress today, because it's something I have totally forgotten about, to be honest. I didn't mean to like abandon that part of my childhood, but it still definitely played a part in my fashion sense today. And I just find it all very interesting and fun to look at. So, firstly, just for context, I kind of wanted to discuss why tweens just aren't really a thing anymore. And it basically is just because of social media. Social media has changed a lot of ways that children grow up. And I feel like peak tweenhood was during kind of an interesting era with technology where like more, products were being introduced and everything, but we were still, like playing outside, and we weren't really old enough to maybe like have phones or anything yet. But phones also weren't advanced. There were fun apps, we were maybe too young to be on Tumblr, but we liked the aesthetic and we found it like inspiring, but we were just too young for it. Anyways, I'm gonna read this little bit from Google just to get it out there. Tween fashion has largely disappeared because of the blurring lines between tween and teen styles due to the influence of social media, where younger kids readily access and imitate more mature fashion trends, leading to a desire to dress older than their age, effectively eliminating the distinct tween look. This is further compounded by the lack of dedicated tween brands and a shift of marketing towards a broader age range. So it's just very interesting. I feel like our mindsets as tweens 10 years ago were very different than, a tween today. A tween today doesn't even know they're a tween, is the thing. Like, it's not a big deal as it once was, which I think is a bummer because I think they're really missing out. It was such a fun time. Fashion during this time was, I feel like, very, like I said, kind of inspired by like Tumblr and that 2014 aesthetic, but it was kind of like the younger version of it. And it was something, wasn't it? When I think of tween fashion, I just think of Justice. I think a lot of people do. Justice was the queen bee when it came to tween fashion. It's not around anymore. Actually, it is. I think you can order online. They have a website, but all their brick and mortar stores are gone. I think they went bankrupt in like 2020. I also think of Claire's, which I believe went bankrupt as well, but I think they survived. Obviously, they still have stores around too. But Justice was was crazy. I was looking at pictures of Justice stores in person, like inside, and oh my goodness, that looks so overwhelming. But they were so fun. I remember like I didn't really get into Justice all that much. My mom, she's played such a big influence in my style, and she hinted at, you're not gonna like these clothes very soon. And she was right. I definitely had like a couple of like graphics with like the craziest things on them with like stripes and glitter and everything. And I think this style of fashion just really it's really interesting because it's not necessarily feminine, like we weren't wearing like cutesy bows and like tulle, but it wasn't like cool either. It was kind of like an in between, which made it so like distinctive. It was very loud, it was very girly, but not, again, not feminine and not like pretty. It was just like even the Justice like slogan was, I think, just for girls. So I don't know. I mean, the word that comes to mind when I try to describe it is just fun. I use the word fun to describe things a lot. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. It's just an adjective that just comes out of my mouth for whatever reason. I didn't know that until I started editing my videos, and I was like, what is going on there? But anyways, tween fashion was fun. That's how I would describe it. Contrary to how, tweens are today, like I feel like back then we didn't really want to grow up. We were very just happy, being in the moment, or at least I was. I can't speak for you all, but I don't know, I feel like life was just so in the moment because we were in such a interesting stage of where we were still very young and children, but we were also still kind of trying to figure out what, a woman is and stuff like that. And it was just very like a transitional phase. And I feel like it's just a bummer that that's not really a thing anymore because girls just want to be teenagers and adults really quick. And I think that's too bad. I know I was like definitely influenced by the friends and the girls I was surrounded with. Again, like I didn't really buy that much justice because of my mom's influence, but I wanted to just because of my friends and what I was seeing. Like I remember getting like catalogs. I was a big magazine reader when I was younger. I would read I don't know, like Teen Vogue, but what's even younger than that? Like magazines like Girls World and stuff like that. Just really like kind of obnoxious looking magazines like that. I loved those, and I feel like that's where I got a lot of like my little fashion sense. But again, this is like such a short period of time that I feel like you can't really cultivate like a whole closet, when you're a tween. Um, I mean, I'm sure some people did, but I didn't. So I feel like we were influenced by one another greatly, which is interesting given, we weren't on social media yet. Being a tween was just like, it was just part of being a club. We all wanted to be kind of like the same girl, and I think it's just really interesting and fun, especially now as we've grown up and we want to be like so different from each other, and we want to have like such unique personal styles, whereas back then we just wanted to all look the same. I do think it's interesting this shift from tween fashion, think justice, whatever, to Brandy Melville because whoa, talk about like maximalist to minimalist so quickly. And I think the reason for that shift is because the Brandy Melville girls or whatever, they all wanted to look the same as well. So I think it's interesting that like we still wanted to look the same, we just wanted to look different as a collectively. At least that's how I viewed it. If you guys skipped that transition from Justice to Brandy Melville, let me know. Like, I would love to know what your style was during that phase because that was a pivotal moment for I feel like a lot of us. Another thing that I wanted to point out, we weren't very insecure yet because we were so young, and again, no social media, and it really shows how we weren't insecure because we were wearing the craziest stuff. Um, and I think that just is what made it so fun, what made our style so fun. And I feel like being a tween was kind of the last era in our life where we could really be not that insecure because I feel like when you become a teenager, things change, you get more insecure. At least I know I did. So that's another thing I wanted to point out when talking about our fashion sense and how just whimsical we were with it all. I also think it's interesting how, we were old enough to not really play with toys yet, but we weren't old enough to necessarily like be super into makeup, which is totally different now. Today there's a whole like 13-year-old girls like stampeding in Sephora debacle and whatnot. Back then there was like, we could get makeup from Claire's and that was fun, but I feel like there were more just like practical fun things instead of toys and instead of like makeup or like I found this planner from I think it was like 2014 and it was Littlest Pet Shop, but it was a planner. So, it's like it's kind of a toy, but it's also very practical. But it's definitely not something a grown woman would, well, I would, but most grown women wouldn't necessarily want. Um, and yeah, I think just products were, I'm going to say it again, fun. They were just fun. They weren't always practical like this, of course. Take Claire's for example. The accessories were amazing. They were silly. They were dumb. But that's what made them fun and exciting. I do think there are some similarities to what we wore back then as a tween to what we wear now, and I think there are some influences that I didn't really realize that era of fashion has had on us. I feel like the whole maximalism, trend has kind of played a part with that, wearing a bunch of colors, matched patterns. That definitely is reflective of being a tween, and I never noticed that until now. Even some like graphic tees honestly remind me of like those that I would find at Justice. And I think that's just fun and a nod to that little era. That's, not even all of us were a part of. I feel like some of us still skipped the tween era altogether. If you were just, I don't know, not as cool, I guess. I could probably talk about this for a long time, but I can only talk for like 15 minutes straight before I start sounding like a frog. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. I miss tweens. It was such a fun time. What was your tween like Roman Empire? I feel like mine was My Life as Eva. Literally, my life is beaches every single night. That is all I have for today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you soon. Bye.